In the remote village of Paranormal, surrounded by dense banyan trees, abandoned wells, and narrow muddy lanes, there stood an old, forgotten mud brick house at the edge of the village, known simply as Bhargav Koti, a place where even dogs refused to bark after sunset, and where one particular window had earned a reputation so terrifying that even the bravest men avoided walking past it at night, because anyone who looked inside that window after midnight supposedly saw a pale face staring back at them from the darkness, a face that didn't belong to any living soul. So when 22-year-old Arjun, a city boy with more confidence and common sense, arrived in the village for a photography project, he had no idea that his biggest challenge wouldn't be bad roads, mosquitoes, or buffaloes blocking his path. It would be that cursed window, the very same one the villagers warned him about. On his first evening, as he sat outside the tea stall sipping smoky Kulhad chai, the villagers kept throwing frightened glances toward Bhargav Koti while whispering horror tales about Khidki Wali Chudale, the window which apparently stared at passers-by with glowing white eyes. But Arjun, being a typical city guy who watched too many horror movies and believed he was immune to fear, laughed and said, "Bro, it'll be kia dar." Window high to high, and the villagers nearly fainted at his casual disrespect. Even the old tea seller, Lala Kaka, whispered urgently, "Beta, Rakkeo Khidki Kapasmat Jana wo Jankti High." But Arjun only chuckled and took pictures of the house from afar, not knowing that the house's single window was already watching him back. Later that night, while staying in a small guest room in the village serai, Arjun couldn't sleep because the room's only window had a direct line of sight to Bhargav Koti's infamous Khidki, and even though he tried to convince himself it was just superstition, he couldn't ignore the strange feeling that someone, or something, was watching him from afar. At around 12:47 a.m., when the entire village was buried in deep silence except for the occasional hoo of an owl, Arjun suddenly heard a soft tap, tap, tap on his window, and assumed it was a branch or maybe the wind. He ignored it, but then the taps got louder and more rhythmic. Tap, 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 as if someone was knocking intentionally, and he froze because the nearest tree was at least 20 feet away from his window. Gathering courage mixed with stupidity, he slowly stood up, picked up his phone, turned on the flashlight, and whispered, "Con hi!" But there was no response, so with trembling hands and shaky confidence, he walked closer and peeked through the thin cotton curtain, only to see nothing but empty darkness. Relieved, he turned away, muttering, "Yar, I'm overthinking." But just as he took a step back, the window pane shook violently, and before he could react, a pale white hand with long, sharp fingers slapped the glass from outside, making him jump back and scream louder than a pressure cooker whistle, waking up half the village. Within minutes, the Sarai caretaker, Dermu, rushed his room holding a lantern and shouting, "But Bola the Tumsy, Khidki Mat Kolo," but Arjun, still trembling, stuttered, "Bibi Butt Koida, Hoth Deka Main." And Dermu gave him a look that said, "Welcome to the club," before dragging him back to bed and warning him never to open the window after midnight. The next morning, determined to prove he wasn't losing his mind, Arjun went straight toward Bhargav Koti with his camera, ignoring the villagers' shocked gasps as they whispered, "Yes, she harka lakadagaya." And as he reached the abandoned house, he saw the infamous Khidki up close for the first time, an old wooden frame, with chipped blue paint, dusty glass smeared with handprints, and a dark void inside that felt almost alive. Just when he lifted his camera to take a picture, the window shutters creaked open on their own, and a soft female voice whispered, "Arjun," stretching his name unnaturally long, sending chills straight into his bones. Panicking, he tried to run back, but his foot got stuck in a broken floor tile, and he fell face first into a bush while muttering, "Kia be zadi hai yar." But when he looked back up, expecting a ghost, he instead saw a small girl, around 8 years old, standing behind the window, wearing a torn frock, pale face, messy hair, and blank expression, staring at him silently like she was waiting for him to do something. Arjun felt his fear vanish for a second as he said, "Arbachi, Tubudhai Kia," and the girl tilted her head slightly and whispered, "Tum Mui Deka," of Tum Naje approach, and vanished instantly like smoke dissolving in air, making Arjun scream like a goated Eid. Terrified but also frustrated, Arjun questioned every life decision he ever made that brought him near this cursed window, and just as he tried to escape the compound, the window behind him slammed shut, the door of Bhargav Koti creaked open, and a chilling wind swirled around him as if inviting him inside, and before he could run, the same soft voice whispered again, "Arjun, story bishuru hui hai."